Welcome back, friends. Hear Me Out podcast. And we are doing a special collab today with the two homies. You got Jalen and Ryan in the house, man. Much appreciated for y'all joining. These two guys, man, they be showing so much love to the podcast. Big sports heads, man. Big NBA heads. As you can see, they got the jerseys on. Ryan and I got the hoodies on, man. I'm excited for this collab. Yes, sir. Who you rocking?
Yes,
Who you rocking, Jalen? Is that Trae Young?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Young himself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Brooks, who you rocking today, man?
Got the Penny Hardaway joint.
Ooh.
Number one, you know.
Hey.
Oh, Penny Hardaway, man. All right, we're going to jump into it today, man. We're not talking about basketball just yet. We'll get there. But we're going to start now with the NFL that just came back on Thursday as we saw the Chiefs went out there and punished Houston. You got Mahomes, went out there, a cool 200, 3 touchdowns. They brought back everyone on offense, all that other good stuff, man. Let's go ahead and start with the Chiefs, man. Are we seeing a dynasty already? I'll go ahead and let that. Why don't we start with Brooks on this one, man? Do you think that the Chiefs are a dynasty now, or are they a dynasty in the making?
They're a dynasty in the making for sure. You're not a dynasty with just one championship. But I'm excited to see what they do for this season. I'm excited to see what Patrick Mahomes does for an encore because he is the most electrifying quarterback in the game, possibly.
More than LJ?
More than LJ for sure, just because he does it better with the throwing. He can run a little bit too. You saw him talking shit to all the quarterbacks, but the defense in the Super Bowl. Like, this guy is the one. He's not the two, but he's the one. You know what I mean?
You already know. What you think, Jalen? What are your thoughts on this Chiefs team, man? Are they a dynasty yet?
Bro, I don't know about yet, but that knows something special for real. You get to bring everybody back, and then your running game comes up. I mean, I don't know. Damian Williams might come back with no job the way Edwards-Helaire was running the other night. Boy sat out talking about, he's sitting out because of COVID reasons. I hear you, but you might come back unemployed because my dude was eating. So if you they get in a running game with everybody they already had, still coming back to the offense, that boy Patrick Mahomes got a base deal, bro. He's gonna be there for a minute. So they're gonna be a problem. This year has a lot riding on it in terms of dynasty or not, but I think this year they're probably more scary than ever right now.
What are your thoughts on this Chiefs team, Ryan?
Man, I think the Chiefs are definitely a dynasty in the making. Honestly, from what I've seen on Thursday night against the Texans, they definitely have the ability. They have the team. I think they definitely can make a run to the championship if they wanted to, going back-to-back again. But I think the competition level in the AFC is definitely higher now that Tom Brady's gone. I mean, the Bills are definitely powering up. Of course, you cannot forget about my Ravens with Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP. It's going to be a lot of competitive teams. I think the Chiefs, their road to going to the Super Bowl is going to be a lot more difficult this year.
I don't know, man. I don't know what your guys' definition of dynasty is, man, but I think we are watching a solid already. Like, this team is a dynasty already in my eyes. I don't know if they probably need another chip to solidify that, but I think we are watching right now the best football team of this decade. You got the best quarterback, arguably, that's come out in the last, however many years. They brought back everybody on defense. The biggest problem that the Chiefs were having was their defense. They weren't stingy enough on defense. They were kind of soft. Teams were rolling on them. Ryan Tannehill laid 30-plus on them last year, and they won. So that was fucking sad. They went on after that to win the Super Bowl, obviously. But, you got to look at Tyrann Mathieu, man. Just that secondary got stingy, man. And they brought back 18 of 20 starters. And, Mahomes is Mahomes. He just got that fat-ass contract. Bro just invested in the Royals, man. He's not going nowhere, So he's already, in my eyes, a legend. I obviously super biased because that's my favorite football player. But I believe he's already, legendary status right now. They got Hilaire in the backfield, which was, for me, it was a pleasant surprise, man. I have him on my fantasy team. I was like, damn, this guy could play, man. He's a dual threat running back. And, Andy Reid is going to be that offensive mind that Mahomes is just going to be free to flick the ball. He doesn't even need to do that now, bro. He got help. He got more offense than he did even a year ago. So, and he brought back, obviously, Travis Kelce, Ty Hill, man. I think we are looking right now at a solid dynasty with Travis Kelce being the best tight end in the game, Mahomes being the
best decision maker as well. Shout out to Stephen A. Smith.
Yep. Mahomes. Wait, but who's the best decision maker?
Travis Kelce. Excellent decision maker.
Why's that?
If you know, you know.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Stephen A. got the streets talking on that one, bro.
Is he talking about like his choice of wife?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I seen people were like, yes, sir, he got himself a queen.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
But yeah, man, this Chiefs team, I believe that they're already like looking pretty dynastic right now, if we're being 100% honest. And I think you mentioned, Ryan, just now how they're looking like their path might be harder this year. I don't know, man. I think the Ravens are probably the only team that could give them some bump. Outside of that, I don't think it's going to be as hard as it was last year. I can't see them going down 24-0 in the first game. I can't see them going down, what was it, 17-7 in the next game. I don't see that happen. I see them winning probably more games where they're controlling most of it or where they're just straight up blowing them out of the waters. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That's playoff talk. So, yeah, man, the NFL is back. Chiefs were looking crazy on Thursday night. That was the Super Bowl opener, obviously. And one thing that stuck out to me during this game was that there was fans there, right? So they're not in a bubble. They're playing in their home cities, whatever, their home states. What are you guys' thoughts on that, man? Should they be doing a bubble, or is this, like, good that they're doing it, kind of socially distanced? We'll go ahead and start with you on this, Ryan. What are your thoughts on no bubble in the NFL?
I know I was talking to I know Jalen and I kind of talked about this a little bit during one of our episodes or before one of our episodes. And I remember that having a bubble in this sort of environment with the NFL, with how many players are on each team and how many coaches are on each team, it's going to be a little more difficult just trying to find one centralized location. I was thinking they could just do it division by division, but I don't know how that would work out. As far as the fans go, they're socially distant, which is good. I think limited capacity is a very smart idea, especially when your stadium fits 70,000, 80,000 people. So I thought it was good the way they had it set up. I think it was probably a better idea to go the route of having fans, but they're socially distant instead of just choosing a bubble with a centralized location.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this, Jalen, man? Should they be bubbled up or socially distanced the way to go in this situation?
I mean, I think socially distance was cool because, like, low-key, I mean, maybe it's just Kansas City rocking or something, but it low-key made me forget it was less not reaching capacity the other night. I mean, 20%. The big thing with that was, yeah, it's not crazy crowd noise where it's like, oh, you won't get your offside calls because of, like, quick hikes and ish like that. Like, that portion of the game probably isn't going to come up as much now with limited capacity and stuff like that. But I think not having fans at all is going to be a lot more difficult to get used to as, like, viewers watching it on TV, because football is the game where it almost kind of plays even more of a factor. In basketball, we're used to watching AAU games on YouTube and all that like that and seeing barely a good amount of people, or if it's a sold-out crowd, it's about as many people as was at that Chiefs game. So it's one of those things where, like, with football, I think you can just – they have way too big of a venue not to be able to make it work. And the whole thing with the bubble is, like, on top of it, like Ryan said beforehand, way too many heads to keep track of. And, like, even if you did it by division, everybody's playing out of the division early on in the year. Those division games get cranking, come December, really, is where it's kind of like
right.
Where mainly all hitting at. So, I mean, I think the social distance works for now. If anything crazy pop off, I'll change my mind, though.
What you thinking, bro?
Yeah.
Bubble, no bubble?
Just my take is it's a lot easier to do the socially distant fan thing when you're playing games outdoors, and you don't have to worry about the virus traveling like you would at an NBA game or a hockey game, something like that. Like, you're outside, the wind is going, you're you're just outside. You're having a good time and all that. So being at less capacity is a lot better option to me. Jalen, you mentioned just the division games being in December. I guess that's when you have to think about having a centralized location for the division teams. I don't know where you would go for each place because there is no central place that you can go to. Like, where can you go that's comparable to what the NBA has with going to Walt Disney and, being on Disneyland? Like, I don't know, would it be at IMG again, like what the WNBA is doing, or, what Canada's doing with hockey? Like, where do you go? Because there is no headquarters, I guess you could say.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I would have to agree with you on this. A part of me would say, a bubble. We all know that these leagues got enough, finance to make this kind of stuff happen. They could bubble up wherever the hell they want. However, the difference between this and other leagues is that, especially with the NBA and the NHL specifically, and the WNBA, which are all doing bubbles right now, is an outdoor sport. Obviously these crowds are 20% capacity for the Chiefs game and probably for these next coming ones. So it's probably good in terms of like not changing the game too much. But like you said, like those quick hikes, those you can, like, Seattle games are going to be way different now. The Seahawks, they love that 12th man. It's going to be it's going to affect them. And other teams that are kind of known for like being really loud, I guess Lambeau is one of them. They're going to feel the effects of that. And, it is what it is, man. Those third downs won't be as loud on defense. So it's just going to be what it is. The players are going to have to adjust. And a bubble really wouldn't have helped much in this situation. They already got these really high-tech disinfecting things that they walk through. Like, they got all the state-of-the-art, stuff that they need. I think all these leagues should be good, bubble or not. But, especially the outdoor ones, they should be super good, So I'm going to have to agree with the panel on this one. Where it's 4 for 4, no bubble required for the NFL. So I guess Roger Goodell is doing something right for once. All right, man. We're going to stay in the topic of football, and I wanted to ask you guys a question. So I recently addressed something on the channel. Link this in the description for anybody that hasn't seen it. There was some very insensitive comments made by a popular sports entertainer, right? That's what I call him. I'm not calling him an analyst, not a journalist. I'm calling him an entertainer, okay? Well, we are talking about the one and only Skip Bayless, right? So Skip Bayless, for those that don't know, is the Dallas Cowboys mascot, damn near, right? The guy is big Cowboys fan. He's very biased when it comes to his takes, but usually when he's talking off the sports, like off the field stuff, he's money, right? Like racial issues, he's money. Like personal issues, money, right? But then this time he just comes out of the woodworks, basically calling Dak weak. Dak Prescott, the quarterback for his favorite team, calling him weak, not a good leader, saying that you shouldn't come out with this kind of stuff publicly. And what is he talking about? He's talking about depression. He's talking about depression during COVID, depression following the suicide of his brother, not to mention he lost his mother in high school, so those kind of wounds already cut super deep. So he came out and basically just said, you know what, he implied that he's less of a leader, less of a man, because he's showing his emotions publicly because you are the quarterback of America's team. This is no debate, obviously. I'm sure you guys agree that this is some wild shit to say, and we won't give Skip too much airtime here, but I want to know your guys' initial reactions to hearing these comments. Jalen, what did you think when you heard these comments?
Bro, I think it's just Skip being in his bag, bro. You know how it works with the clickbait with that dude. Anytime that he got to play the hate card, he goes as deep as he can for it. If LeBron James drops 20, 20, and 20, but he only hit 4 free throws out of 10 shots, he's going to be talking about the free throws all night. If Dak throws for 300 yards and scores 2 touchdowns, but they lose the game, he's going to say, but he had a completion percentage of XB. It's all just how he wants to hit the narrative, you know what I mean? And he's a little biased towards his quarterback right now because he thinks Dak wants too much money from Jerry. He feels as though we've been listening to him over the last couple of months in terms of that contract dispute and not re-signing him and things like that. And he wonders whether or not Dak is worth the money he's asking for. And when you have that type of doubt in your quarterback as it is, anything and everything that man says is automatically going to feel a little less luster. It's going to have a little less luster behind it. It's going to be one of those things where he just looks at it and says, and no, maybe I can't really hear it. I don't really want to hear it. Because right now he already has, quote-unquote, a beef with Dak, sort of. He wants Dak to kind of take one for the team and things like that. And he's not following that street. It's the same thing with Damian Lillard. Talked a whole bunch of smack about D. Lillard. And I mean, the dude only went out and ate during the entire bubble. And then the minute they go up against the Lakers, but they're the lowly Portland Trailblazers. The only thing they're trailblazing is into the basket. All this other goofy stuff, even though he early in the year was saying at full strength, they would be able to take out the Lakers in the first round if they came up as an AC. So it's all stuff where he just kind of beats the drum to whatever his current mood is. And that's kind of just how I took it, bro. It's just like him and Dak got a little bit of mini beef right now. And he's just pouring it on because he has, like, pick integrity. That's really it.
What are your thoughts on that, Ryan? What were your initial reactions to Skip's insensitive comments towards Dak?
I always thought of, like, Skip Bayless from ESPN just talking about Tim Tebow and how he was, like, the biggest Tim Tebow fan. In regards to Dak's comments and how he reacted, I think when he said he's not a leader and he's seen as weak, I think that it's the opposite. I think that he's now going to be a strong leader because his team now wants to fight for him. His team now wants to win for him. I think that what Dak did going publicly, I thought it was very courageous on his part. I just feel like Skip was just out of line.
Yeah, 100%. What you think, Brooks? Because I think I was the one that told you said that. What were you thinking when I told you that?
So when you first told me, I was just like, wow. Like what Jalen said, just Skip being Skip being a dickhead. I initially thought, it was a thing where Skip was saying Dak is going to be the MVP of the 2020-2021 season. And I was like, oh, man, that's just Skip. He's just being Skip. But when you told me, you said all these things about Dak, being being sensitive and, people are going to want to pick on him and if they sack him, they're going to talk all this trash to him. I'm like, that's just football in general. People are going to pick on you and they're going to want to say whatever they want to say. That's just sports in general. You know what I mean? This is an alpha male sport. But as far as just trying to, like we said, be insensitive, just say whatever comes to your mind first without thinking, I mean, that's just par for the course with the guy. And it's very disappointing. I will say this. I wish that his co-host Shannon said something. I wish that Shannon tried to, not necessarily demean him or anything, but kind of just check him on what he's saying because, the main issue was that Skip was saying, for him to be talking about depression during the pandemic, we all went through that, it may be weak, it may not be weak, but, we were all worried during this whole pandemic. We were all thinking, man, what's going to happen? And it's okay to be vocal about that because we had no idea. We still have no idea what's going to happen. We're going through a literal economic depression right now. We got housing to worry about. So, he's saying that what we were all worried about Dak was, and I don't blame him at all. I think it's courageous. Good for him. Keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah, man. I'm not going to share too much. If anybody wants to check out what I was saying in the other video, like I said in the description. But I think where Skip got it all wrong, man. He actually got it completely the opposite, right? So he's saying that Dak Prescott shouldn't be this, that, and the third because he's the Cowboys quarterback, because he's, so it makes it that much worse in Skip's mind that you are the quarterback of the Cowboys, you are a professional quarterback, athlete, whatever. He got it all wrong, I think that the fact that this guy is the quarterback of America's team, the fact that he is a professional athlete in a dog-eat-dog world, as he described it, a cutthroat industry, which it is, he got it all wrong because somebody in that position has, triple courage, as Ryan was saying, to come out and share that kind of information. People are not going to use that against you unless they're, maybe a troll or something, but for the most part, people are going to get behind you and they're going to respect you. And you got a lot of guys mental health is a big thing in professional sports where people like Skip Bayless create the narrative that, you're soft if you do this. So was he calling DeMar DeRozan soft? No. Did he call Kevin Love soft? No. Right? But why? Because they're not his favorite athlete on his favorite team. Now, if it were Tim Duncan or Kawhi Leonard when he was in San Antonio, are you going to say that about, come on, man. Skip got it all wrong. If anything, he deserves more props. The fact that he is Dak Prescott, the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't like the Cowboys, but that's a great career life accomplishment to be that age and be in that position. And he's a fucking good quarterback, right? So the fact that this guy has all this pressure sitting on his shoulders and he comes out and shares this information, it makes him look more courageous, or not makes him look. He is more courageous for that. And I think guys are going to get behind him. Like you said, people are going to want to play for him. Guys in the huddle are going to, respect his realness. People gravitate towards guys that are real, you know what I mean? And Skip Bayless tends to turn people off because he's not always real. He's sometimes just, he has conviction for, he's very confident in his takes, but he's not always real. And I think people can tell, let's be honest, he loves LeBron James. He doesn't hate him. He loves LeBron James. That's the only reason he knows everything about him. He loves LeBron James. He turns out to be like a hater because people like LeBron listen to that. I'm sure Dak was listening to Skip. These guys, for some reason, listen to him and feel the need to prove him wrong all the time. He got it all wrong. Skip Bayless should be giving him more props to the fact that he's this big quarterback of America's team, man. Stop with all this. That's and you pick the worst day to do it, on Suicide Prevention Day and on Suicide Awareness Month. It was just a horrible look. It was probably the worst take of Skip's entire career, if we're being honest. But yeah, man, we're like I said, we're just gonna give our initial thoughts on that whole Skip thing. We're all kind of in agreement. No real debate there. We're just kind of breaking down his comments and our thoughts on that. So we're gonna move on from Skip Baseless, and we're gonna talk about our fantasy teams. Did you guys create fantasy teams this year? Before we get into this topic?
Yes, sir.
Everybody got one?
Yes, sir.
So, do we have any big fantasy pickups you guys want to talk about? You guys like
on ours for ours, so we were doing a football podcast, and we set up some rules to kind of make it a little bit fair because there's only 3 of us. So we took the top 4 guys at every position off the board. So guys like Mahomes, Lamar, I think we took like Michael Thomas and those guys off. Like all of those guys were not allowed because our teams would be OD. It's 3 of us just, go down the line, 45 players, the top guys in the league. Just watch ESPN 100 and pick your team, pretty much. So we wanted to make things a little bit more exciting than that. So with that being the case, I think the slickest pick I probably could have made was I got Josh Allen, I think in like round 8, and I think he's going to eat. Like, I don't know what's going on with the Bills lately, but over the course of last year and a lot of the hype over the offseason, like I've watched a bunch of like fantasy draft stuff with like Matthew Berry and stuff like that, and they just keep hyping this kid up. And he did numbers for me last year, but I got him by accident. My whole team got auto-drafted, and he only got he was getting like 15, 16-plus points every week. And I'm like, I think they might have got me right on this one because normally I get an auto-drafted team, and anybody crazy running for me. Or I might have like Tyrod Taylor starting one week just because I didn't, set the team up. So I picked him up, and I think with the division being more up for grabs, I mean, they got easy pickings this Sunday for sure, to the point that I think he might have his first, 300-yard game. So I'm going to go with Josh Allen as my pickup because he might carry me this year, surprisingly enough.
Hey, man, he got Diggs to throw to, man. They got a great defense out there, too. And he could have a good season, man. It's very, very likely. Ryan, you got any notable fantasy pickups?
I have 2, actually. One was DJ Chark from Jacksonville. I thought he was a solid receiver in his rookie year last year, and he's made some great plays for this team. Unfortunately, I don't know how good Jacksonville is going to be this year because they lost a lot of their stars, and including Leonard Fournette, who just signed with Tampa Bay not that long ago. I feel like my biggest draft steal is J.K. Dobbins. the second round pick for the Baltimore Ravens.
Nice.
Considering that the Ravens have a 4 running back system right now, it kind of looks like a Navy like triple option offense. It's probably going to be the Baltimore quadruple offense or option offense or something. But I think J.K. Dobbins was a star coming out of Ohio State. I watched a lot of Ohio State games last year, and there wasn't a time where I saw him not make a great play. I think he really made some solid plays for an Ohio State team that really put the offense on his back at points. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Ravens really incorporate J.K. Dobbins into their offense this year. But I'm excited for what he has.
And Brooks, man, you didn't join our league, bro.
Nah, man,
You didn't join our league, dog.
Fantasy sports. I always get like you know how I am when we play basketball. Like I always want to be competitive. I always like to play hard and all that. And with fantasy sports, it always seems to just consume my time. It's almost like video gaming for me a couple years ago. So I decided to take a clean break for this season. Enjoy. Maybe I'll do like fantasy basketball, but for football, yeah, I just wanted to take a little break.
Nah, I feel you, bro. The way you're taking a break, I'm getting my start. This is my first ever fantasy team this year because I tried doing fantasy like 2 years ago, and like Jalen said, I was letting that shit auto draft. I wasn't paying attention. Got 3 kickers, man. The season was over on draft night.
Wow.
The season was over on draft night, man. It was fucking horrible. And they weren't even good kickers. They were like randoms, bro. Like people I never heard of in my life. But yeah, man, I would say my biggest notable, and here's the thing that blew me more than anything. I'm in a league with my cousin Nick, Brooks, you know Nick. And I have my namesake of the team is Wheaton Mahomes. That's my team, and I didn't fucking get Mahomes, man. I got the 4th pick in the draft. That's so unfair, man. And there's only 4 people in our league, so I got the last pick. You got the little snake draft or whatever. So I did get Saquon though, so that was good. But I would say my 2 pickups that were like pleasant surprises, right? First was Hilaire from the Chiefs, the running back, dual threat running back. I actually had Mark Ingram. He was my starting back, and then I was like, you know what, this Hilaire kid, man, I think that he's going to get a lot of bump tonight because Mahomes, I wasn't expecting him to come out and have like 500 yards on Thursday night. So I was just like, you know what, they should win this game, and then usually towards the end, they're just going to dump it off to the running back, let him eat, and that'll like push his fantasy points up. So that was a pleasant surprise. You know, he already put in some work for me, like 20-plus points. And then Ben Roethlisberger. Nobody picked up Ben Roethlisberger at all in my league. Like, you got fucking Kyler Murray got picked up. Goddamn Josh Allen got picked up. But Ben Roethlisberger, because he's going to put up numbers, bro.
Yes, sir.
He's a sleeper. He's a super sleeper. I know he's hella old. I know he's got his little controversies with certain players and whatnot. But he's going to eat this year, man. I think Juju's going to have a breakout year. Let's see, man. You know, the Steelers are going to be back in the playoffs this year. I don't think Ben's done, man. He's still got a lot left in the tank.
Juju doesn't approve a year this year, right? Because they didn't extend him a contract or anything.
Nope, not yet.
Yeah, he's got to eat this season.
He's gonna have a breakout year with Ben coming back. Expect him to have a lot of big plays this year. Ben being known for like that strong arm. So fantasy, man, is fun, bro. It's actually like I never realized like how competitive it can get, and like, you know, like the like Brooks is saying, like you're like constantly checking it to see like who can I get and like what can I do and whatnot, like looking, comparing and whatnot. So it's super dope, man. Fantasy football is back, man. Football is back. How about that, y'all? For the first time ever, a fun fact, we had the NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, MLS, and the WNBA all played a game in one day. The other, like, I think on Thursday. On Thursday,
yes,
yeah. NBA playoffs and NFL started at the same time. So, explain to me this. In a 3-person league, Jalen, how does that work? How do you guys get a champion? Y'all just played, like, how do you guys even have 2 games if it's 3 teams?
Yeah. So the way we finessed, right, when I tell you we were up for like probably 45 minutes extra on Zoom than we probably should have been, like we sat there and we made a new email and made a bot. So we had a bot and we did we set it to where you could do like the draft afterwards, because like, you know how most people, they might have like a draft party and like the big old board and stuff like that, so they let you do it like after the fact. Well, we did the draft on the podcast, like live on the podcast. Okay. So we put our teams together after, and we just gave the bot randoms. We just gave them, they could have anybody. Like, I don't know, he was like, he didn't get, I don't think the bot had anybody planned on Thursday. But, like, they just have anybody that we could think of off the top of our head and just threw them on there. And so, like, basically on, like, an episode-by-episode basis, whenever we do, like, the updates for the fantasy league, it's basically whoever has the highest points for that week is the winner of the week, rather than, like, you know, facing each other and stuff. Because one week we might get smashed by the bot, and the next week half the team's bot might be sitting because everybody's on bye. So rather than like having to keep up with the bot or try to make something work with that, we just flipped it and tried to make it a little bit more even. But yeah, we had to basically make a whole separate email, add a little random bot dude in there, give them random teams, and just roll with it like that.
Nice.
Smart.
Yeah.
Hey, man, why don't y'all give a quick shout out to your podcast real quick? We didn't even do that at the beginning. Where can we find all your podcasts, man? Shout out all your guys' podcasts you got going on.
Oh man, Ryan, get into it, my boy. You got it,
man. All right, so Who Talk Podcast. You can find us on Apple, Spotify. Those are our two main sources, but we're also on Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio as well. Of course, like this podcast, Hear Me Out. Make sure you give our podcast 5 stars as well, and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. And of course, subscribe to Hear Me Out wherever you get their podcast from. Which I think is just sure. Right?
Everything linked in the description.
Appreciate you, bro.
We got dope sports podcasters in the building, man. Hear Me Out podcast, and we got Jalen, Ryan, BT, the whole panel in here chilling, man. All of it is in the description. It's a great link up, man. You know, it sounds like I'm wrapping it up, but I'm not. But I just wanted to say it's a great link up as always, man. Like, you know, it's always dope when we got, you know, people that are like basically on the same wavelength, same energy as us, like talking sports, but on the podcast. That shit is so dope. And you know, drop a comment down below if you got your own podcast, and so we can check it out as well. But let's go ahead and move on. Sports, man. We talked NFL, and we're going to go ahead and bounce over to Orlando in the bubble, man. Let's talk some basketball. So, topic number 1 is the Eastern Conference Finals. They are all set. The Raptors and what's the other team that lost? The Raptors and the Bucks.
Oh, the Bucks. That's why you forgot.
Yeah.
That's exactly why you forgot.
The Raptors and the Bucks, they got their flights back home, and now it's set for Game 1 on Tuesday. Still not decided what time yet. So what are your guys' predictions for this series? Brooks, I'm going to go ahead and start with you on this, man. Miami versus the Boston Celtics, man.
So for one, I'm glad that Boston is getting a little more extra rest because, man, that was an exhausting series. Mm-hmm. And they're in for another physical, exhausting series because Miami, they're like the 21st century version of the Bad Boys. Like, those guys are going to get after you. Jimmy Butler, he's not like a premier superstar, but he's the best player on that team. He's going to be able to galvanize those guys, get them to be physical just like he is, get them to play hard. It's going to be a really fun series.
Love it.
I think, for one, I love the fact that Tatum and Jaylen Brown were able to close out that game. They were able to be those superstars that you know they are. They're able to lead this team. They're able to outplay Toronto. Like, those guys are just growing superstars. I'm excited to see them play. I think Miami takes Game 1 just because, you know, not only are they well rested, but I think they're going to be a little more ready to go. I think they're going to be a little more excited. They might come in like really anxious, but I think as time goes on, just like anything else, any other NBA game, they calm down, they figure it out. Jimmy Butler goes for like 25 and a slick like 16 rebounds.
What?
Probably has some games that he block at one point. We'll see what happens.
What? 16 rebounds? Who do you think he is, man? It's not Russell Westbrook.
He's a great rebound forward guard, though. That's why I say
That's
that.
crazy.
16 rebounds.
Look,
Ooh.
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree with you here. I think the Celtics are gonna take Game 1, and I'll tell you why. Because they just made it out of this dogfight, right? And I think that Miami's gonna come into it kind of expecting another Milwaukee. This ain't Milwaukee anymore, man. This is not Giannis anymore. We are talking about Jason Tatum. I think Jason Tatum now needs to be respected more. Like, obviously he's on a better team, right? Would you guys say? I think the Celtics are a better team overall. But I think Jason Tatum needs to be respected more. I think over Giannis, like maybe even I'm not saying he's a better player, but I think as a superstar he needs to get more respect because he's what 22, 21, 22 years old.
He's 22.
He's only 22, and the guy is in his second conference finals already. Had his best players out for the first one, and now they come back full strength. But the Celtics are going to take Game 1 because I think the Heat haven't really had real bump yet. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they played the number 1 team in the East, and they played the Pacers, right? They haven't played real bump yet. Like, you're playing an injured Oladipo. You're playing a T.J. Warren, who everyone thought was a superstar off of a couple games in the bubble. And don't get me wrong, he was cooking, but, like, they haven't played anybody real yet. This is their first real matchup. I think Jimmy Butler now is going to probably turn back to, like, Minnesota Jimmy. Like, I don't think he's going to play as well as he did in those first 2 series. But I agree with you that they're the most physical team in the bubble. I think Brad Stevens is going to be ready for that. And I expect this to go at least 6 games. And Game 1 goes to the Celtics. Series goes to the Celtics. What you think, Jalen?
Bro, I gotta lean with you on this one for real, for real. I think the main reason why is just out of the fact that, first shout out to Toronto for even making it 7 because, like, right. Come on, bro. They could have been down 3-0 and they could have been ugly. I mean, ugly. But I think the main reason why, right, is because the main thing that we talk about as you get further and further down the rounds in the playoffs is being battle tested. Joe, the first thing you said that hit me straightforward was, the Heat haven't really played anybody yet. Not if yet. You really want to put it into perspective. Because playing Indiana, it sounded like they were on the verge of firing their coach, whether they won this series or not, really. They gave him like a 1-year extension, almost like a pension before the year started. Right. And then when it comes to Milwaukee, the thing with that is, okay, say Giannis doesn't get injured, right? Either way, you're coming off one of the most emotional teams in the bubble, considering the circumstances that took place with Jacob Blake and then being one of the primary teams leading that whole boycott situation around Game 5 against the Magic.
So would you say that took them out of it a little bit mentally?
Personally, me and Ryan discussed this a little bit. Personally, I feel like it did, but I think the main reason why I lean that way is just because this is a team that, it seemed like they were almost willing to kind of put it all on the shelf as it was. And closing out the Magic is not hard. No offense to them. They have guys across that team that I respect. Jonathan Isaac was out, and I feel like that would have maybe changed things a little bit in terms of it being more competitive. But closing out the Magic seemed like, easy work. But then when you go against a team like Miami, you can't come into that series half-hearted. You can't come into that series with your mind half in it and half out. You got to be full go because, like Jimmy Butler said, business trip only once they pulled up to the bubble. So with that being the case, they took on 2 teams. It almost reminds me of, like, you guys remember all the excuses made against the Golden State Warriors when they went on their first run and they faced, it seemed like throughout the playoffs, every team they faced, the guard was injured. And then, of course, they get to the finals. Kyrie goes down. Kevin Love goes down. The whole 9. It feels the same way with the Heat, except now you run into Boston, and they're strapped. And the only person they're missing is Gordon Hayward, and they're not really worried about that. No offense to Gordon. I think they're going to figure out something this summer with him where they either going to restructure in this last year or 2, or they might end up trading the boy because every extra minute Marcus Smart gets on the court, it seems like this team gets better. So no offense to Gordon, but they look real solid right now. So no injured guys to worry about, and they strapped, and they're tested. So I got to go with the Celtics. It's going to be close, but I just feel like the Celtics are a lot better and will probably strike first.
How you feeling about this series? Oh, You good, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry. I think that this series, I said this before on our other podcast, and this is kind of a hot take, but I think Miami's going to the finals. I'm sorry. I have to stick with my Miami team. You know, I feel
got some explaining to do, buddy.
I'm in a sense feeling the heat. You know, no pun intended, but like Jimmy Butler is playing his best basketball, and I think when he left Philadelphia, I think he knew something needed to change, and now he's the leader of this young Miami Heat team with very few superstars. Actually not superstars, but very few veterans on this team. I think the only other veterans are Andre Iguodala and Udonis Haslem, who doesn't really play that much.
Goran Dragic, don't forget about him.
Yeah, Dragic as well, and that's actually where I'm getting to next, because I think his supporting cast with Dragic and Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and Bam Adebayo, this is a great group of young guys. And I know Goran Dragic is a veteran, but to see a guy who's quietly putting out like 20 and 5 every night, we can't sleep on a guy like Goran Dragic. I do think the Celtics are battle-tested. I think they are going to come into this series ready. Brad Stevens has definitely done a great job coaching this team. The Celtics will probably end up taking game 1, but I can't be worried. You know, Miami shouldn't be worried at all because Jimmy Butler's here for a business trip. And I think that he's going to be ready to go. I don't think he's going to have 25 points and 16 rebounds like Brooks said, but I think at some point he's going to have a great game. And, you know, he might drop 40 on the Celtics. He might have 25 and 16. But, you know what? I have to take Miami, and it's going to be in 7 games.
Wow. Hey, man, and I don't think anybody should knock you for that opinion, because it's very, very likely, man. Obviously, the Celtics they are more battle-tested. As I said, they haven't had as much bump. However, the one advantage I will give to Miami over Boston is that I think you got more toughness in Miami, right? I think Jimmy is going to do whatever he can to get, because one thing that Jason Tatum clearly has shown is that he's a better player when he's not pissed off, when he's calm. And Jimmy Butler's forte is pissing people off. And, you know, the Heat's forte is pissing people off, swiping, fouling. Pat Riley instilled that in them. You know, we're going to give you those welcome fouls, especially in Game 1. Shit that's going to carry on throughout the series. You know, it's starting to build up and get more aggressive throughout the series. I think it will probably go 7 games, but I can't give it to Miami, man. I got to go with the superstar, Jason Tatum, man. I'm literally going just based off of superstar being on, because you need a superstar to get to the finals, and I can't say that about Jimmy. I can't say he's a superstar. I say he's a growing superstar. He's a star player, but he's not quite there yet. And I don't know, man. I just have more trust in that team, and overall, you know, I think defensively, both teams are great, but I give me Marcus Smart and Kemba and them. Give me them over Adebayo, Crowder. Give me that Celtics team over the Heat. You know, but like you said, I mean, 7 games is very likely, and the Heat are very capable of winning this series, man. I think it's going to be a tough matchup.
I think that.
But my fault, Ryan.
No.
Okay.
Y'all hilarious.
Okay. So I think that when Giannis leaves the East, because I'm going to say when, because I know he's going to leave the East. He's going to go to LA somewhere. He's gonna leave, and I think the Celtics will eventually take over the East. Just not this year. I think Jason Tatum is definitely a superstar. Marcus Smart, on any given night, can score 16 straight points and hit 5 threes when he's like left wide open by a Toronto defense that just does not even. It just keeps leaving him open, just keeps leaving him unguarded. But you know, the Celtics, the Eastern Conference will belong to the Celtics once again. But I think the Heat have to just. They have to close it out. They weren't even slated to make the playoffs this year.
That's true. They weren't expected to be this far. But go ahead, Brooks.
before we move on, I think we got to give Eric Spoelstra his flowers, man, because this guy,
I agree.
At the beginning of the decade, we're talking about, this guy is unqualified to be coaching LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. Takes him to 4 finals, wins 2 of them, and then over those next couple of years, like, he's trying to get Dwayne Wade back. He's dealing with all this roster turnover, and he's still able to get these guys to the playoffs. He's still able to get these guys to be the same Miami Heat. And now he has, like, this really great team. He has a really great leader in Jimmy Butler, and to a certain extent, Goran Dragic, Iguodala, Udonis Haslem, still like a player coach, I guess you can call him. Like, this guy can really coach. He's been coaching his ass off this whole decade. I don't understand why we don't talk about him enough. You contend with, like, the Brad Stevens of the world, Nick Nurse now, Popovich, but Eric Spoelstra is definitely up there. I would say on a good night, maybe like a top 5 coach in the league right now. And yeah, for sure right now, give him his flowers, make sure he's loved, because this guy he's phenomenal as a coach, and he's always going to be underrated, but right now he doesn't deserve that.
I agree with you, Brooks. They tried to play with him like he was David Blatt, man. They tried to treat him like he's like nah, man, stop. Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the league, and we got to give a lot of credit also to Pat Riley for setting all this up, man. He's able to. This guy, Pat Riley, is like the finesser of all finessers. Like, he can talk a player into his team better than anybody. Dude, what's that noise? There's a lot of background noise.
I don't think it's from me.
Y'all hear it?
I have no idea where that's coming from. Sounds like police.
Yeah, I hear that too.
Is it like a fan pointing on one of y'all cameras?
No, that's on me.
All right, now it's gone.
All right, beautiful, perfect. All right. So, yeah, I mean, definitely Pat Riley deserves his flowers as well as Eric Spoelstra, man. The Miami, I was watching an interview, right, with Chris Bosh and JJ Redick. Shout out to the JJ Redick podcast, one of the best player podcasts. I love it, man. It's one of the best player podcasts that's out there. Not to mention, every other player is doing fucking podcasts now. It's beautiful. Like, no one's going to go to ESPN anymore when you got all the smoke podcasts, you know what I mean? So definitely shout out to these player podcasts. But I was listening to JJ interview Chris Bosh, right? And Chris Bosh was saying it's that Heat culture, man. It's the same shit that brought LeBron there. It's the same shit that kept D Wade there for all those years. The same thing that has now brought all these guys together. Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, the complementary pieces they got like Crowder and all them. It's the Heat culture, right? It's the thing that Udonis Haslem, I think, is also. It's like for Miami, it's Alonzo Mourning, Pat Riley, Udonis, and eventually D Wade at some point. But it's that Miami culture, and they're able to kind of mentor all the guys in the team to the point where it's like they're winning off of chemistry and not talent. You know what I mean? So I think that bodes very well for them moving forward.
Big facts.
So y'all got any other thoughts on this series?
I do. And I don't want to keep on talking about it, but
go for it, bro.
I think Dwayne Wade being able to lure Jimmy Butler to Miami too is one of the biggest things too, because they were obviously teammates in Chicago, and Dwayne Wade being able to like advocate for Miami, being able to advocate for like as you call it, the Heat culture, like being able to get guys to be in Miami, because let's face it, Miami, great town, great people, beautiful people, matter of fact. Like, why wouldn't you want to be over there when you have a gritty culture and a gritty team, just fun people around you? So, I mean, I don't know. I might be leaning towards Brian's way, but I think the Celtics still have it.
Yeah, they're... All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the other conference, man. Let's go to the West. Tonight's game is Lakers and Rockets, the main event. It's the only NBA playoff game on tonight. And the Rockets are looking like they are on the brink of elimination, but it's looking like they got nothing left in the tank. The house guy who had the COVID tester in his hotel, even though he had a beautiful family, by the way, have fun with that child support. But damn, man, The Rockets have no wind left in their sails, man. I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to Jalen in a second, but one thing I want to say is this, man. James Harden is the biggest fraud in the NBA, man. He's the fraudiest superstar in the entire NBA. James, bro, it's getting to a point now where I can't trust him in a game. Like, I think at this point I'll feel more comfortable with Eric Gordon down the stretch of a Rockets playoff game. That's how bad Harden has been, man. That's how bad Harden has been, man. You know what? Give it to Austin Rivers, man. Let Austin Rivers go get himself a bucket. Because James Harden, this guy is a fraud, bro. It's insane. Why I'm not trying to sound like too much of a hater here. I'm not trying to be on those skip shit, but holy shit, like. Let's look at
Jalen, go ahead and speak
before I pass it off to you, bro. Look at his resume, man. He has these big games where he's supposed to go off. You had no Russell Westbrook in that OKC series. Pat Bev took Russell Westbrook out. He played like some shit. You got 2016. I think they were playing I forget. I think they were playing the Warriors first round of Steph Curry's MVP season, unanimous, right? You go out there, no Steph, and you lose in 5? How? How do you do that? And then you keep moving forward. Every year it's something else. You got that Spurs series when it's Game 6. You need to have the biggest game of your life. I think Kawhi is not even playing in this game. LaMarcus Aldridge is the best player, and you lose by 30, and you have 10 turnovers and like 2 made field goals. The last game James Harden played, you're trying to avoid this 3-1 deficit. And you scored 2 field goals, bro? Really? Come on, man, Jalen, man. How you gonna defend this man? I want to hear this.
Bro, like the video, bro. They bring in the collab, bro. They bring in all types of nonsense. Oh man, Harden is a fraud. This man Ryan got that. He's going to the finals. This man Ryan saved that Giannis to LA tape just for y'all. Like the video, man, because they tripping. Let's do it this way, bro. When it comes to this series specifically, right? First of all, the problem with James Harden, I feel like all postseason has really been that we haven't really seen him go off yet. It's weird. He got a lot of flack for not playing defense, and then makes one of his, I guess, bigger plays defensively with the block on Lou Dort, then having the wherewithal to jump over the ball wing back, which was extremely stupid on Dort's part. I would have just tried to launch another shot up, but that's neither here nor there. Whatever. But I think the biggest thing about all of this really, right, is we're coming at James, and I get it. Last game, not good. 2 field goals, most of his time spent at the line. That's not gonna get it done. But when are we gonna point the finger at Russ? Like, when are we gonna? Hey man,
they're
listen,
scapegoats, man.
Joe, let me ask you this, because this is my guy, so I don't even like doing this. I don't even like coming at this man disrespectful like this. But let's keep it a buck. Game 2, Rondo had his neck the whole game. And Rondo didn't even play that crazy. 10 points, 9 assists.
He had who's next? He had Westbrook or Harden?
I think he had 1 or 2 3-pointers. Game 3 was kind of where Rondo kind of ate a little bit, and that's where things kind of came into fruition on his end with the 20 points. Game 4, kind of a little bit of the same thing. I mean, granted, Russ dropped his 30, and, that kind of kept things rolling for them. But the issue is the decision-making down the stretch. Those last 5 minutes of the game, they're having issues figuring out who the hell is going to close. And I get it. The first thing that anybody would say, because this is where I lean with you, is why does James Harden not have the ball, right? Why is he not the main one initiating the offense down the stretch? We could say the same thing about how it went against the Thunder. In terms of Russ driving in, passing it back to Robert Covington, turning the ball, pretty much giving the game away. Look, all I'm saying is that in a your turn, my turn offense, they have to figure out who that guy is going to be. We know it's James Harden. We know it should be James Harden. Or are they treating it like that? That's the only thing that is kind of worries me with that, is because Russ is the hardest player in the league to me in terms of playing at 110% every night, controlling the pace of the game, being the guy who steps up down the stretch to give them buckets. But sometimes, bro, you need to know who you are and who else is on your team. I think James Harden living at the free throw line isn't going to get it done, but you got to throw that man the pill. Like, give that man the pill. Because at the end of the day, even if he doesn't convert with the three-pointers and all that stuff, we know we're going to see him at the line 20 times.
Right.
And that stuff helps with closing the game, too. Look, Fraud is strong. I got questions about him. I do. I got questions about James. But Fraud, though, bro, I don't know.
I'll tell you why I say that, though.
Got me twisted.
Let me explain why I call him a fraud, right? Because the NBA in the regular season, it's a place for the fans. You understand? Like, it's like the NBA in the regular season is for SportsCenter. It's for the fans. It's for the even for the players, man. Honestly, I think some of these guys go out there and think more about like the benefits of being an NBA player instead of winning a championship. Like, we've seen it with Melo, where he chose the money and he chose the lifestyle over the championship. So I just don't want that to be like James Harden's situation, but that's what it's looking like. You know, obviously take it at face value, but there was reports that he lost a game like some years ago and then went directly to the strip club and just balled out at the strip club way harder than he balled out in the actual playoff game. So come on, bro. And why I call him a fraud is because this man is dropping 40, 50, 60 in the regular season at ease. But that kind of game, and I know it's like it's like an outdated, I think a lot of old heads like to say this kind of play won't win a championship, but will it? It really, like, it doesn't seem like it. And I'm not saying he needs to be taking the last shot every time, like in terms of him being like, you know, what I'm saying, like, oh, give it to Eric Gordon, give it to Austin Rivers. I'm saying, like, have the ball in your hands and make a decision, because there's times where this motherfucker is, like, not even involved in the play. Like, he's running to the corner and just watching whoever. Like, before Russell Westbrook, it was like you got fucking Chandler Parsons taking the last shot in some of these games, man. Like, James Harden, I feel like he's just so uninvolved in big moments, man. Like, he plays great in game 1, in game 2, but once you start getting towards the 5 and 6, and, you know, starts to slow down, more turnovers, and you really start to see how exposed his game is in the playoffs, because the playoffs, you can't play hero ball, man. It's slower than what it usually is, so he's not going to get 50 and 60 in the playoffs. I think his career high in the playoffs is like in the 40s, right? And his average in the regular season is like 35, right? So it's a significant drop-off in the playoffs, which, like, the playoffs, as opposed to the regular season, is for legacy. That's for where guys' careers are really cemented, like being a great player. Is James Harden a great player? Probably, but is he going to be in the top of my mind? Is he going to be in the top of my mind when I'm thinking like top 5, 10 players of the last decade? I don't know, bro. I think he's like the most talented offensive player outside of Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant is still the best offensive player in the NBA, like, when healthy. But bro, like, what is this guy doing? 10 turnovers, 2 made field goals, bro. Like, give me one gamer, bro. Give me one of those. Why don't you dribble through your legs and get 4-point plays in the playoffs? Why don't you drop 60 in the playoffs? That's why I'm saying he's a fraud, because he can go out there and get a 60-point triple-double in the regular season, but when it comes down to it, when they need him, you know what, like when we look at a game like tonight, what are most people going to say? James Harden needs to drop like 40 points, 50 points. Like, motherfuckers are saying that, right? Like, that's a common narrative. So, and I don't want to sound like a casual here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of casuals would be quick to say, like, oh, man, you know, just because he's in the play. Nah, it's because of how long he hasn't been doing it in the playoffs. This motherfucker is like a decade in, bruh. Almost damn near a decade in. And I know he's a lot of people's favorite players, and they're going to kill me in the comments, man. I'm not a casual, I promise. I watch these fucking games, man. I look at these stats, and I have reference for everything. Anybody that want to question it. James Harden has habitually come up small in big playoff games, but then when the regular season rolls around, he's a dog. He's a fucking every single night doing some wild stat line, scoring 50 points. He broke Michael Jordan's record for 30-point, whatever, this, that, and the third, but as soon as he comes to the playoffs, he gets embarrassed.
Let me say this. I think ever since he got elbowed by Ron Artest in 2012, I think he's
that was the start of it, right?
For real, bro. Because even during the playoff run, bro, he was a fraud in the finals. He didn't do anything in the finals that year.
God.
Like, it's been bad, bro.
To be fair, I'm not holding that bad finals against Harden because he was hella young. You got two other guys taking more shots. Kevin Durant, was basically, using up most of their possessions and whatnot. But I don't hold that against them. They're playing against LeBron and D Wade. They had the fact they even won a game was impressive. So I give them props for that. But
that's fair.
When you come to fucking, like, even you're gonna get outplayed by Damian Lillard in his second year, and you're a superstar player, bro. Like, stop it with that, man. This guy James Harden, to me, is like, he's a magician in the playoffs, bro, because he does his famous disappearing act in the biggest moments. He just poof, abracadabra, gone. No fucking James Harden to be seen. Like, you got Russell Westbrook taking the shot, bro. He's doing the same. And I think Russell Westbrook and Mike D'Antoni are scapegoats, in my opinion. I think it's easy to turn the other cheek when it comes to a James Harden performance this year because they're trying to stay with the Mike D'Antoni system. Russell Westbrook, rightfully so. Russell Westbrook plays horribly down the stretch with those turnovers, missed shots, and whatnot. So if you're James Harden and you know that, get the ball out of his hands. Say, you know what? Say this. Say, hey, give me the fucking ball. Give me the ball. I don't even have to shoot. I don't have to shoot the ball, but let me make the decision. Let me make the decision. And James Harden's a great passer. He doesn't have to shoot it. He just has to decision make. And he's not decision making. This shit's crazy to me.
I think you got to be like Michael Porter Jr. and just try to blame everybody else for not getting
my God.
But let me say this. We keep on bashing James Harden, which is very, very qualified. But I also think the fact that you're doing this quote unquote micro ball, right? And you're trying to just like play small. You're trying to ostracize everybody if you're Mike D'Antoni. Like, Mike D'Antoni's system, the way he wants to coach and play, it's just not going to work. And it's just as much of an indictment on him as it is on James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Jalen, I agree with you, bro. This guy, he is just as much of a fraud as James Harden is because you don't want to you don't want to, like, he's not a championship.
Y'all are different over here, bro. Y'all are different. I didn't come strapped for this.
Listen, though, we keep on saying he's not a championship level point guard, and we keep on seeing it. KD leaves, and you think it's because of Russell Westbrook. Like, this Paul George leaves.
Russell's a fraud. He's a fraud.
Because he keeps on losing in the finals. He wants to keep on rapping to Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard destroys them. He breaks up the bad boys. Like, this is crazy. This is just like an imperfect team, and this is why I was so worried about them at the beginning of the season, because I'm like, for one, who gets the ball? And then for two, who closes out a game? Because you don't trust James Harden. Russell Westbrook isn't a championship level point guard. This Rockets team is just very, very flawed. Mm-hmm. And I get the fact that they're both super fun players to watch. They're both walking triple doubles, but
amazing
they're
players.
Just for a good backward of the future. They're not the OKC Thunder from 2012 where you're thinking this team is going to be able to be a finals team for every year. Nah, that's not them, bro.
Like, when I think of Russell Westbrook, of James Harden, man, I almost want to compare him to somebody like Charles Barkley, but I can't even do that. You know why? Because Charles Barkley had dominant playoff games. Dominant, right? Like, I would say, like, Harden hasn't even reached that plateau yet.
Let's get Ryan in on here.
Yeah, Ryan, man, what are your thoughts on this, bro? Give us your opinion on this Harden fraud takeaway.
Jalen, treat this like WWE and give me the hot tag, please.
Oh man, bro.
James Harden is a fraud. Dang. I'll give you credit because that was a lot to unpack there. Russell Westbrook has shown in the playoffs he cannot make a lot of good shots when it comes down to it. I can remember specifically, I think it was his first year after Kevin Durant left. I think it was Game 5. He only made 5 threes. He made he went like 5 of 23 from beyond the arc and shot like 40 times. It was nuts. He kept shooting that didn't go in. I remember that game very vividly. Just remember that Russell Westbrook cannot come in clutch at certain points in the game. This is insane. Harden's a fraud. Whew, I don't know, man. The evidence is there, but
damn it,
Harden's a fraud. I think you broke Jalen.
Hey, man, all love, though, man.
Like the stat sheets, how James Harden, whenever he's in the stripper city, like a good strip club city, he always performs bad. And every time he's not in somewhere, he drops like 60 points, right? Now he's in Orlando. There's no bubble. You're in the bubble. You have no distractions. And this guy is still being a fraud. This is flagrant foul 3, flagrant foul 4 for the way he's performing. He's not getting it done, and I'm tired of it. He needs to get it done.
This is where I will agree with you. He's playing a Lakers team that's basically LeBron and Anthony Davis. I'm not counting, Danny Green, KCP, Caruso, Dwight Howard as part of this team because this is LeBron and AD's
it's the
team.
LeBron pretty much the Lakers,
sole
bro.
Playmakers on this team, and the fact that they beat the Blazers in 5 games when I thought that the Blazers were going to win 7. Kudos to them. But this is going to end up being the same series that's going to take them to the Western Conference Finals, where the LeBron and AD will carry the Lakers to the Western Conference Finals in 5 games.
Tonight, they're ending it tonight.
Yes. To be now moving to the Rockets, the flip side. I thought there was going to be some chemistry on this team, and yes, I was wrong. I think Russell Westbrook needs to step up more, but we cannot put this on James Harden. Just solely James Harden. I know that the 2 field goals that he made the two field goals that he made, obviously that's suspect. Russell Westbrook's playoff history is suspect. Mike D'Antoni as a coach in the playoffs is suspect.
Exactly.
But you got to share the wealth in terms of the blame, because this is not just falling on James Harden. I think that, the circumstances could be differently. If this was a road game and he was playing at the Staples Center, yeah, you probably expect him to drop 50 and grab 13 rebounds and have 8 assists. But he's in Orlando with no fans, and, he's not having a great game. But he's not having a lot of great games. But, man, to say James Harden is a fraud in the postseason, yes. In the regular season, he's up for MVP.
Oh, no. Hey, I never question his regular season play ever.
Yes.
He's probably... Him and LeBron, in my eyes, LeBron not so much, but I think James Harden is one of the greatest players in the regular season ever. In terms of
Agreed.
entertainment value, production, and stuff like that, and even wins. Right, he took a team with no Chris Paul last year all the way to the top spots. But let's not ignore if you tell me, right, or if I tell you, let's say you don't know who I'm talking about, and I say, this guy is the best offensive player in the NBA by a good margin. Would you expect him to go out there and score twice? You would expect him to go out there and score some more, right? And not be a magician.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to tell you guys.
Well, and I sort of see where you're coming from with that take, and it's not the hottest take I've heard. I've made some pretty bad takes myself. You can ask Jalen. I defended the New York Knicks at one point. But, James Harden is one of the most unguardable players of all time. And yes, I do expect a lot from him coming into this playoffs. But he's facing LeBron and AD. And honestly, I thought he would be able to get it done in this series. And I might have to roll with you on this take because, yes, I do believe Harden deserves some of the blame. But you got to share the wealth and some of the blame because, again, Harden deserves blame. Westbrook deserves blame. D'Antoni deserves a lot of the blame. I don't know what this. Yeah, I don't know what this team is. I don't know what this team is doing right now. This is not the same team that I saw in the quarterfinals against the Thunder.
Hey,
Jalen, I know you got something to say, bro.
You look hurt, bro.
Dang, bro, you guys are wild. Okay, all right. So this is what I'm gonna concede, right? Okay, because this is the off-camera conversation I've had with my pops and some homies a couple of times beforehand. Again, I don't know if I can lean fraud, but I understand all the logic of it because the difference between regular season and postseason is where the magician tag is coming from. And I completely understand that. And I feel like the main thing is probably the argument that we're having really is similar to what I feel like we had with Peyton Manning throughout his career similarly. Now, the championship part of it is what changes this conversation. Same thing for him. The issue was Peyton Manning. Well, yes, too, right. And that's what I mean. In terms of James Harden, I'm saying that changes the conversation automatically. But the conversation we had with Peyton Manning was the year you have 43 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, you got to get it. You got to get it done. You got to be able to roll out there and finish the job, basically. One of the most dynamic offenses in the league. And this is something he was kind of known for back even when he had guys like Marvin Harrison and Adrian James in the backfield for the Colts. This was a guy who, during the regular season, could put up numbers. Come AFC first round, AFC second round, wasn't even really getting to the conference finals or I guess like the conference championship game that frequently. The issue was, when is he going to get over the hump?